Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Super Tease video. And is World of Warcraft dead? Is it dying? This is something that you see posted on every single forum, every single expansion, as the doomsayers would say. But in today's video, I wanted to talk about, in all seriousness, what is going on with World of Warcraft, because I think some of the data that has been looked at in a lot of videos that I've been watching is likely being misrepresented, and there's a lot of overarching things that people are not considering to take into consideration for the decline of the population and participation when it comes to World of Warcraft. And if you want to stay up to date with news related to World of Warcraft and guides and entertaining content, smash that subscribe button. But let's get started. The first main data point we need to talk about, and this is one that I've seen highlighted a lot, is participation for Mythic Plus, which is going to follow in line a lot with rating as well as PvP. In Season 1, we saw 6.5 million players competing their runs for Mythic Plus, and in Season 2, this is where you'll see the, oh my goodness, what is going on? 2.3 million players having completed their keys, over a 60% loss in participation, player involvement. Now, the direct comparison of this obviously would be Shadowlands Season 1 to Shadowlands Season 2. Shadowlands Season 1 saw 7.7 million players, which was more overall, but into Shadowlands Season 2, you're going to see a pretty similar drop-off in player base to 3.8 million. So 50%, around 50%. So it's around the same participation, if we're being honest here. And in Shadowlands, you really need to take into account lockdowns. People were getting money from the government and they were sitting at home. This is the first time, maybe they had a family and a job and they didn't have time to play World of Warcraft. They had time to be able to play World of Warcraft. So the numbers for Shadowlands are going to be padded heavily from this, and you need to take real world incidents into account when really addressing this, and some other things which we are going to talk about. And that one of those major things is going to be Battle for Azeroth, because when you will see these analysis, you'll be thinking that Battle for Azeroth was the best expansion ever. So in Battle for Azeroth Season 1, we had 4.4 million players, which is still less overall than Shadowlands or Dragonflight. But in Season 2, we did not see as much of a drop-off. Only about 400,000 players down to 4 million into Battle for Azeroth. But what is contributing to this, right? Why did Battle for Azeroth retain so many of its players? Well, in Battle for Azeroth, pretty much every PvP player had to do Mythic Plus. The best gear to do PvP came from Mythic Plus. For like 99% of classes, you maybe used PvP trinkets and that was it. Like, think about the Drestagath, this type of stuff. This all came, maybe Drestagath was from Raid, obviously, but maybe the motorcycle trinket, things like this, and even just your main slot pieces. You were more excited about your Mythic Plus chest at the end of the week as a PvP player than you were your PvP one. This is why I think that participation likely retained more so in Battle for Azeroth than Dragonflight or even Shadowlands, because that content was not 100% necessary. For some classes, it might have been a ring or something in Shadowlands, which maybe did have some contribution to it only being 50% drop off and not 60% drop off. And that really leads into the question that we should ask is, should rewards overlap between content? Because I think that is a contributing factor, if not the main contributing factor, to why participation did not fall off a cliff in Battle for Azeroth for Mythic Plus. Is it okay to make players do Mythic Plus even if they don't want to get a best in slot piece for the content that they want to do? Because the entire premise of Dragonflight was to be against that. It was do what you want to do, play the game your way, and have fun. And that was the selling point. And that's what everyone was really excited about in Dragonflight. But it obviously comes with problems because as games advance, their population declines. And this is just a common trend that I'm noticing for almost every single game. What game is actually retaining its player base and not just slowly declining and slowly falling off a cliff, or sometimes rapidly falling off a cliff with things like Diablo 4? It seems like players are either just becoming completely numb to the experience when it comes to these video games, or it's a realization that they can't keep escaping into them. They've got to get back into the real world, which is the third contributing factor that is likely leading to this massive decline, which is that we are not doing very well economically in the world. So we just came out of that global lockdown. Government's no longer providing money. Things are more expensive. And you don't have a lot of time if you've got to be working to be able to earn money, to be able to just exist right now. I mean, we got housing costs going up, living costs, gas costs, fuel costs, everything is going up. Everything is more expensive. And these are the things that you might not be aware of if you're just a World of Warcraft content creator and you're going, ha 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 ha, ha, Dragonflight's dying, they must have failed or something. You've really got to take this into account when you're looking at overall player base decline and things like this. That's going to be a significant factor into the overall participation. I don't think we've been in a position as economically bad as we are right now in a long time throughout World of Warcraft's history at this point. But we can't really control that, right? We can't control out-of-game stuff that's affecting participation and its drop-off. We can only control the inside, which is why I asked you guys that question. Do you think players should have to do the other content to be able to have the most competitive options? In my opinion, I wouldn't be completely against having one piece of gear from Mythic Plus, Raid, and PvP that, you know, universally is the best in slot for a class, so that you are incentivized to go into all those avenues to try and go after that piece with other maybe time-gated methods to get them in your content. So if you want to speed the process up and get that best in slot gear, you can jump around at Mythic Plus, jump around into the Raid, and that participation is going to get a little bit padded with those players all jumping around in content they're probably only doing to get that piece of gear. And this is why I don't think you should do it for any extended period of time. It should be one piece, and then if somebody liked the Raid after trying it, they're going to continue to do the Raid. But if they don't feel like it, they're not compelled. They don't have to considerably waste their time, if they consider it a waste of time, to do that extra exterior content. I think that there's a nice little middle ground to it. That something like Battle for Azeroth has completely missed the mark. PvP players are wearing 90% of Mythic Plus gear. Like, everybody only cared about Mythic Plus. And that's also something as well, is that raiding gear has gotten better. You know, the last couple of bosses dropped something that's better than Mythic Plus to try and get people to raid, because everybody was only doing Mythic Plus, which is why, again, I think we see Battle for Azeroth's percentages not drop off as significantly or as heavily. Now, another thing that is contributing, that is, you know, in game, it doesn't have to do with lockdowns, doesn't have to do with the global situation or economics or anything like that, is class balance, which throughout the expansion has been an ongoing process with minor improvements and really aiding things. But there has been two crippling points for game balance that have just completely ruined the streak, honestly, in my opinion here. The first one was Retribution Paladins in patch 10.0.7 for PvP. I think that had a huge hit on overall participation. But now moving into 10.1.5, it's Augmentation Evoker. Completely new role. I would say debatably new role. If buffing other classes is not really a new concept, but to the degree that it's buffing other classes has basically made it a mandatory pickup, especially for Mythic Plus. We saw the creation of God Comp here, and they're stealing our names here from PvP here for Mythic Plus, but it's okay. With the Holy Paladin, Guardian Druid, Shadow Priest, Fire Mage, and Augmentation Evoker to buff the whole unit up. And with the strength of these 5 Infinity Stones put together, they're pushing keys to infinity and beyond, as Buzz Lightyear would say. And it's really causing havoc in LFG for signing up for groups, for players who don't want to play those classes but now feel compelled to, or they're not getting invited, and you can't compete and you can't push your key up. So a lot of players, they're just getting their Keystone Master and they're dipping, they're getting out. They're not staying through it, and I think that has now been, you know, representative in PvP with the Ret Paladin patch, and debatably Holy Paladin right now as well in PvP, but definitely with Augmentation in Mythic Plus. And it is just people are just jumping ship due to the game balance, and that is something that can be controlled and I think needs to be addressed. We saw some emergency measures that they pulled with changes the previous couple of weeks, but seemingly hasn't had an impact at this point. And honestly, if they overdo it and over nerf it, I've seen some complaints on Twitter from some Mythic Plus players that they're not going to be able to push their keys as high as they were previously, or catch up to where keys had been pushed at that point. So they're in a really tough spot, and I don't know if it's a repairable spot for the remainder of this season, or it's something that needs to be done for 10.2 and a major patch into the future. Do note that we're getting reworks for Resto Druid, reworks for Monk, and I think reworks for Rogue in the near future that haven't been announced yet. And I'm really worried, like these reworks and these changes really need to not have these giant spikes in terms of representation, because it is very damaging to the game and to the experience. And I think it is causing a lot of players to leave when they feel like they're compelled and have to play this, or they're not going to be able to compete. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect. You know, the balance is never going to be perfect, but there's big outliers that have popped up and have not been nipped, and because of that, players are leaving. So I just wanted to make a video to talk about my thoughts on it, the overarching theme of it from the exterior view, with the economics and with the global situation, and then internally as well, things that are definitely impacting it, and bring it down and give some ideas and some solutions to try and alleviate that, or to assist it in the future. So let me know in the comments down below your thoughts about the situation. Have you quit for economic reasons? You know, you got to get back to your job, your family, your kids, whatever it happens to be, due to the current cost of living. Maybe it's just the game balance. Your class, you know, isn't able to compete with the best ones. That's the main reason that you left. Nobody was inviting you to groups because of that. Let me know in the comments down below. Other than that, thank you very much for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.